The people who seem the least threatening are usually the ones paying the closest attention. They sit back in a way that feels harmless, almost quiet. And while everyone else is trying to prove something, they're taking in more than you realize. Not because they're slow, but because staying underestimated gives them room to see the parts others miss. And by the time you notice how much they picked up, they're already 3 steps ahead without ever looking like they were trying. You've probably seen this happen before. Someone comes off harmless, so you relax without thinking about it, and the conversation feels easy. But later when you replay it in your head, you realize they caught every detail you didn't even notice yourself saying. It's subtle, almost too subtle, and it leaves you wondering whether they were actually unsure or quietly picking up information the whole time. And at some point, you start wondering why someone would hide how smart they are. It's not something people point out, but once you start noticing it, it's hard to ignore, almost like there's more happening beneath the surface than they let on. Here's the part most people miss. The moment someone looks obviously smart, the conversation tightens. People hold back, even if they don't mean to. But when someone looks harmless, everything loosens. The room gets more open. People talk without thinking so much, and things slip out naturally. And the person who plays dumb ends up with something rare, the space to watch quietly while everyone else relaxes. Acting dumb isn't stupidity, it's camouflage. People use it because being openly smart draws attention in a way that changes everything. When people see you as the smart one, they change how they act. The conversation gets less natural, and you stop hearing what they actually think. They focus more on how they look than what they mean. And once that happens, you don't get real information, you just get performance. So some smart people step away from that image altogether. They make themselves easier to overlook, almost like they're just blending into the moment. And that softer presence ends up giving them more influence than trying to look impressive ever would. People rarely notice this dynamic because it doesn't show itself in any obvious way. It's quiet. Someone might act a little slower or less certain, but underneath that, they're catching everything. And it's not manipulation in a dramatic sense. It's just the kind of psychology people use when showing their full strength would only make things harder. And a lot of us learned this without even trying. When you're younger, you start noticing how people react when you're quick with answers or too confident too early. Some people take it well, but others don't. They shift a little, you feel it, and your mind stores that reaction without you realizing it. Over time, you learn that showing your full ability isn't always the easiest path, so you pull back just enough to avoid the pushback. So you end up developing this quiet habit of pulling back a little. And as you get older, you start noticing how useful that actually is. When people underestimate you, they relax in a way that shows you who they really are. You get to watch the room without being pulled into anything, and you see things you'd completely miss if you were trying to prove yourself. And this is where most people misunderstand the whole thing. Playing dumb isn't about acting clueless. It's about giving the other person more space. When you're not trying to show how much you know, people open up without realizing it. They explain their thoughts more clearly. They reveal what they want, and the whole conversation becomes easier to read. Psychologists have a word for this kind of behavior, but the idea itself is simple. People adjust how they show up depending on what gives them more control. Some lean into being loud, and others stay quiet on purpose. The quiet ones aren't weak. They move quietly and don't rush to show what they can do. And the moment someone underestimates them, they're already in a better position because the other person relaxes while they're paying attention. And that kind of listening ends up being its own form of power. There's also something people call the observer's advantage. When you talk too much, you reveal more than you realize. But when you hold back, people start revealing things just to keep the conversation going. It's interesting how natural this whole strategy becomes once you stop trying to look like the smartest person in the room. You start noticing that most situations don't need big displays of intelligence. They just need awareness. Smart people don't play dumb to look weak. They do it because being underestimated gives them space to move quietly. They're not focused on proving themselves. They save their energy for the moments that actually matter. And when you take a step back, it makes sense. People don't react to weakness. They react to anyone who seems like they have the upper hand. If someone looks too smart, others pull back a little. But if someone seems harmless, that tension disappears and the conversation becomes a lot more honest. And that honesty is where you get the information that actually matters, which is why the people who stay small often understand the room better than the ones trying to lead it. So maybe the real question isn't why smart people play dumb. It's why we trust people who look harmless so quickly. When someone doesn't seem like a threat, we drop our guard without thinking. And that's usually when we give away the most. And once that happens, the other person doesn't have to do much. The door is already open. This doesn't mean you need to be suspicious of everyone. It just means the quiet ones deserve a second look. They're not confused. They're patient. And patience is its own kind of intelligence. People who use this strategy don't see it as tricking anyone. To them, it's simply easier. Life is smoother when people aren't pushing against you, when they're not trying to outdo you, and when you can read the room without standing in the middle of it. Sometimes the smartest move is the one nobody notices. Intelligence doesn't always look sharp or loud. Some of the smartest people say less, watch more, and save their energy instead of trying to win every moment. And most of the time, you don't realize what they were doing until much later, when the conversation replays in your mind, and you see all the things you gave away without meaning to. That's the real power in playing dumb. So the point isn't to act clueless. It's understanding that intelligence intelligence doesn't always show itself. Sometimes it looks calm, slow, or uninterested, while underneath, the mind is moving in ways you don't see. Being underestimated isn't an insult, it's space. It lets you understand people without the pressure of being watched back, and it frees you from trying to prove yourself in every room you walk into. Some people win by showing their power, others win by hiding it. You just have to decide which one you want to be.